Analog Devices shares on the rise again today, and that's after the company reported earnings, revenue, and a forecast, all that were above estimates. Of course, we have seen a lot of tightness in the chip market that has been benefiting ADI. And Prashanth Mahendra-Rajah is joining us now. He is the Analog Device Chief Financial Officer. Prashanth, thank you so much for being here. You talked in the release and in the statement you gave us that the supply chain is not broken, and I think from covering this, we realized that the unprecedented demand has just sort of swamped the industry. I wonder, as you try to increase your flexibility around supply, do you feel like you're leaving revenue on the table here? And what kind of levers can you pull to get that production up and get chips out the door?
Thank you so much for having me here. Yes, the demand environment for semiconductors has been very strong. And I think what's particularly noteworthy for us is how broad-based that demand has been. We are seeing it across all of our segments. And as we reported in yesterday's results, we had very solid growth in all markets, but with industrial and automotive particularly hitting new all-time highs for us. When we think back kind of what was behind that demand, we entered this pandemic with our customers a little light on their inventory levels. And then as a result of that heavy stimulus from governments synchronized around the world, we saw significant demand in consumer, in compute, and in connectivity. And now, as we come out of this pandemic, we see that strong GDP growth driving our industrial and our automotive. So it's a very broad-based demand for semiconductor chips. And on the supply side, what we are trying to do from a response standpoint is we're putting in more capacity. We made that decision in the summer of 2020 in expectation of growing demand post-pandemic. So that capacity is coming online. And that's really what allowed us to set a record Q2 and drive to a record Q3. So I think you'll continue to see a supply imbalance for a period of time here, but certainly supply will catch up with demand and bring things back to norm.
How much will you spend this year investing to increase capacity? And not just this year, how much are you looking to spend over the next few years?
Yes, so we have an investor model that relies on us using our internal manufacturing facility as well as relying on external foundries for our manufacturing. So we have spent on a year-to-date basis, we are at about 130 million, and that's up significantly versus where we were in the last 6 months of 2020. Overall, I think we're going to end the year just a little bit north of our target, which is typically 4% of revenue. And we're looking for that 4% or low, mid-single-digit number really is the sweet spot for us over the next couple of years as we continue to bring capacity on. I think what you're seeing today really is a temporary imbalance, and we'll see this sort itself out over the coming quarters as supply continues to catch up with this unprecedented demand.
Prashanth, thinking about those kinds of imbalances, just looking at the revenue line, I mean, how are you guys thinking about how much of this is a pull forward? How much this supply bottleneck is going to maybe keep that number higher than it otherwise would have been in subsequent quarters? And, sort of what that visibility looks like. We had the CFO of Cisco on and kind of trying to tease out a similar, answer. Like over the next 3 to 5 years, what's the normalized right size kind of top line growth, given where you guys sit within this kind of tech evolution?
Right. Today's environment is really a combination of the strong GDP that the world is experiencing coming out of this pandemic, but it's also a reflection of just how important semiconductors are in the global economy and the role that they play across all industries. So we are seeing significant growth in content as well as in units. So it's the combination of the two that's creating this pressure point that we're serving to. From a backlog to billing standpoint, we are monitoring and working closely with our customers to ensure that we're communicating with them so they know what they're getting, when they're going to get it, so they can plan their production lines accordingly. But I expect we'll see this through the balance of the year, and then in probably early part of next year, things will begin to normalize.
And Prashanth, I want to ask you about automotive in particular, because I know that's an important and growing part of your business. You guys make chips that manage battery systems in electric vehicles. You signed a deal with Volvo. You've got some other big clients that have come online. So from your perspective, first of all, what do you think the sort of run rate is, growth rate is for that business? And when do you see specifically that part of the business getting back to, a more normal balance of supply and demand?
In this past quarter, we actually set an all-time high for our automotive business. So we are shipping chips at pre-pandemic levels, and for the subsequent quarter, we're increasing that even more. So this is there's plenty of capacity that is coming from Analog Devices into the industry. We are balancing that with tremendous demand for our products, given the incredible functionality that we're creating. You mentioned the BMS products. We have the highest performing BMS product in the industry. And what that enables auto manufacturers to do is it enables them to stretch their vehicle's range and drive the vehicle further on the same charge. And it helps address that issue of range anxiety. And that is why we have a position in over half of the top selling electric vehicles.
Prashanth, really interesting stuff. Prashanth Mahendra-Rajah is the Analog Device CFO. Thank you so much for being here. Great stuff. We love to talk about semiconductors.
Thank you so much for having me.